His phone ring? Yeah, I know. Well, now would be the chance. But, by the way, we're live now.
All right. Well, my phone is in my room, my office.
Oh.
So.
I was just trying to figure out how to open up our little Facebook dialogue thing. And
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see
you.
Good to see you.
Explain to everyone why we're late. Hello.
I am the smart
one. Joe doesn't know how to do anything there in electronics, so. Oh wait, no. It would be. It would be
the tires. Ward had to get his tires fixed.
How to get tires? I knew they were getting worn down, and looked down and saw the cables coming through, and I'm like, probably time to change the tire. Especially when I'm doing a little mini family trip on Saturday. Anyway, so there's no time like the present, and the possibility of an accident.
Oh, there it is.
You get it? Yeah, there you go.
We were posted a comment that made me see it.
There you are.
Right, there we are.
I came by your office and you weren't there. I had some students who wanted to meet with you, and you were not there, sir.
Oh, did you come by my office too?
Well, I just peeked in your window. I could see.
No, he tried not to introduce.
Yeah.
So, all right, a little late start, but that's all right because people are waiting. We're here now for our somewhat regular institution of off the cuff, but that's the good part about doing it this way. We're not a radio show. We're not that. We can be flexible, different days, different times, and it's all archived there.
Different excuses.
Different excuses. Mostly from work.
Hey,
but that's all right. We almost had a fill-in today. We were gonna. It was open. We would have started on time, had because you weren't sure about coming back, and we did ask Corey. Marsh
no! Why would we do that?
Because then we could fight with him.
Oh, we could actually beat him up.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
That would have been funny.
But so he's like, "Oh no, I have to work out a presentation. I'm presenting ETS."
And he's the one who keeps saying, "Oh, you guys need to have me on.
Yeah,
you guys need to have me on."
It was his opportunity.
I have excuses. He was scared.
I've got things I got to present for. I'm at a conference on Friday.
Oh
yeah,
he was chicken.
That's right.
Wow,
so, that was his chance.
Corey, I can't believe it.
Yeah, pathetic, really.
Can't believe it. Congratulations, Corey, on your presentation at ETS coming up this
Scaredy cat.
He'll be in Phoenix, flying out.
He'll be going. Yeah,
I'm assuming fly.
He and his wife.
Maybe drive.
I think they're.
They're going to
take his wife to that.
He's taking his wife there.
Yeah. He and his wife are going.
He wants to punish her.
It's her birthday weekend.
Yeah.
So he's going to treat her to a romantic trip to ETS.
Yeah. Hey, babe, I love you. Let's go to
Evangelical Theological Seminary conference and listen to people.
Come listen to me present a paper.
Yes.
I'm going to lecture there. You can hear me lecture at home or lecture there. No, we love Corey.
No, we love Corey. We're just talking trash about.
Speaking of academics, a lovely transition here. Word has got a clear medical problem that hopefully won't disrupt too much.
As long as I pass it on, I'll be happy.
Yeah. So I came across this article. A guy connected with on Facebook he always posts these interesting things. And the title of this article was "Why I Left Academic Philosophy." And I was reading through this, and it was very interesting. Yeah, I told you the theme of this that I wanted to bring up.
Right.
But it's talking about this person who is involved as a philosopher studying academics, and it was just getting way too out there, just way too not related to anything in reality. And they were bringing up issues of there's people outside protesting for Black Lives Matter, and there's people dying and stuff, and they're talking about these crazy topics that nobody can understand. They're writing papers that nobody cares about for journals that nobody reads, and all this sort of thing. And it got quite depressing. But she mentioned an article in this, specifically on one of these top journals that is considered really super influential and that's involved. And she brings up this topic on meta-ethics, that here's one of these top trending articles on meta-ethics. And she quotes the abstract from this article. Now, I don't want to take the article just yet. So here's the thing. This was so
This is worth the wait. This is worth the wait. He told this is worth the wait. This is awesome. Go ahead.
It's so outlandishly weird. Yeah. I actually left that article. I said, this has to be a joke. This can't be real. It can't be serious. This is like a whole spoof. And I researched a couple people, but I Googled to find this article on the site that she mentioned.
Did you find it?
I found the article. The title of the article is called Possible Girls. Now, before I even get into the subject, I said, after reading this article, I said...
Did Matt Lauer write that? Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry.
It's a Henry Weinstein article.
Henry Weinstein. Oh, my gosh.
No, I read this and I said, okay, this has to be a joke. I found this guy's whole profile, his CV, and I said, okay, this is a fake CV, this is a fake profile. And I researched and I found this guy's written contributions to books that are out and published by reputable publishers. This is legitimate. I have to preface this because you're going to think I'm making this up or that I didn't do.
You're able to validate the authenticity of this article.
This is what qualifies, apparently, as PhD, high level. This guy went, by the way, to Harvard.
Oh, it's Harvard.
He graduated undergrad in philosophy from Harvard.
All right.
And then he did his PhD ultimately at the University of Texas in Austin.
Oh, really?
Props to you guys for apparently having a tragically flawed program that allows this to classify as scholarly work.
There's there's somebody we know in common that has got their PhD of philosophy.
He's actually employed as a professor.
Yeah.
I believe it's at the University of Singapore or something like that. Maybe he could. I don't know. That's where he. Anyway, I won't say anything about that. I don't know it. But he's employed as a full, and he's writing for publication.
Right.
Here's the abstract. I have to read this, you guys.
This is awesome.
Possible Girls by Neil Senhababu. That is his name. He says, I argue that if David Lewis's modal realism is true, modal realism from different possible worlds modal realism, different possible people from different worlds can fall in love with each other. I offer a method for uniquely picking out possible people who are in love with us and not with our counterparts.
You're not serious.
Impossible lovers and transworld love letters are considered. Anticipating objections, I argue that we can stand in the right kind of relations to merely possible people to be in love with them, and thus enabling a transworld relationship to start a relationship with an actual person isn't cruel to one's otherworldly lover. That's beautiful, isn't it? This is high-level scholarship.
Brings a tear to my eye.
So I have some quotes. As you do, initial thoughts before I have quotes. I have quotes.
This is romance on a whole new level.
Yeah. This is
in another dimension.
No, absolutely.
By the way, this article was published in a journal. Oh, I wrote it down here.
Mike Anderson,
Pacific Philosophical Quarterly. So this is California, which is published, I believe, by the University of Southern California, USC. So this is a journal article. Legitimate journal article. Here's a great quote of possible girls and falling in love with otherworldly women of essentially other universes. Now this is going to shock you, this line about this guy who wrote this. He says, as a lonely philosopher, you would never guess he's a lonely philosopher. He says, as a lonely philosopher,
that explains an awful lot.
I've come to wonder, if modal realism is true, can I have a loving relationship with someone from another possible world? The answer, I think, is yes. Given that every possible world is real, I shouldn't feel lonely. There are many possible girls out there in worlds where modal realism is widely accepted. Some of the girls are single and are pining for a boy in a world that isn't their own. Some of them are pining for a boy who exactly fits my description, down to the smallest detail. Some worlds hold legions of girls who desire a boy from a world other than theirs and who fit exactly my description. Since I'm not good at dealing with lots of romantic relationships, which I know that seems shocking, at once, he says, I'll want to pick just one of the girls. It shouldn't be hard to find one who will suit my desires. The space of logical possibility abounds with kind, beautiful, intelligent girls who want a boy exactly like me. That's the premise of his thesis. Thoughts?
Well, we're not talking about another planet or another plane. We're just talking about...
Oh, you responded to Facebook there?
Yeah. We're not talking about another planet or another plane. We're just talking about something that's not really real.
That's a good... So, when you're thinking about other possible worlds, this isn't like a space alien or something. This guy's suggesting that there are other universes that we can't know or experience. We have no conception of those. We can't test them scientifically, but we posit they exist. And falling in love with this girl from another universe that we have no possible way of
posit
connecting
it
with.
exists somewhere.
And by definition, we'll never connect with physically, but
Ever.
still he could have a love relationship.
Well, it is like another plane in the sense of it's a completely different dimension.
It's
not attached to our reality.
So
yes.
So what you mean is, like when we talk about possible worlds, let me give you some wordisms here. Wordism.
Okay.
A possible world is a possible reality that philosophers state for the purposes of helping us understand the real world better. So, for example, we might say that there's a possible world in which Judas is the one who denied Jesus and Peter is the one who betrayed Jesus. Now, we would posit that reality for the sake of trying to figure out what could possibly have happened if things were different. Now, we know that that's not real, and we know that it doesn't exist anywhere in the real world. But we just state it because we want to see if we want to try to understand our world better. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it does. Yeah.
So I learned that in your class.
There you go. No, that's right. And as you've pointed out, and I think it's a great illustration from Scripture, where God does have knowledge of other possible worlds. For David at is it correct? You mentioned
Koresh.
At Koresh, where David says, "If I go down there, well."
No, David. I'm sorry, David, not Koresh.
No, David at Kadesh. It's at Kadesh or Koresh, the town. Not David Koresh from Waco. I'm not talking about that.
The Waco.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in Scripture in the Old Testament where David inquires of the Lord, if I go down, will these people turn me over to Saul?
Right.
And God says, yes, they will. And so basically David doesn't go down, so therefore he's not turned over to Saul. He and his men aren't turned over to Saul. So God knew what would happen if they actually went about this course of action. They didn't take that course of action. Something else actually happened, but God had knowledge of it. It was still a real possibility. And had he gone down there, that would be, as far as our universe goes, an alternate universe, so to speak. Although it's not real.
So this professor that Dr. Miller's talking about is positing a world. He's just stating that there's a world somewhere that exists where there's a woman who loves me and knows me in great detail, who was made for me.
So, but he's not positing it on a theoretical level.
No.
He's saying that this is you can
It's
have
not merely theoretical. This is for real.
Relationship with a woman from an alternative universe. Now he says this because I know what you're thinking. I wish I had one of those relationships, but he says no. There's no reason for you to feel jealous, of course. There are myriads of possible boys, girls, penguins, and talking donkeys whose affections have settled upon you. Choose among them to suit your preferences.
He's serious.
Yeah, he's very serious. He says you can choose from other boys or girls or penguins or talking donkeys.
Legitimate philosophy and legitimate moral
discussions. If you want to love a talking
name.
donkey, you can envision one from this other possible.
So our children, when they have their imaginary friends, he's saying they're real.
They're real. They're possible, yes. And if you want to have a love relationship with a penguin or a donkey, a talking donkey, you can envision it, and it therefore is true.
It's pretty pretty astounding. Someone said a disassociation of the question mark. I'm not sure what that's referring
Well, psychologically disassociated from reality is the saying.
Oh.
It's like disassociation.
Well, yeah, the idea
You might
is
want to argue that might be
that
very
might be a
valid.
classic, definition.
But that's not. That's not what he's
what
arguing.
we have to
for.
understand here. The reason I'm bringing this up is this: this is a PhD certified dude who is respected in the field enough that he's published in journals.
Right.
I mean, published from University of California system, USC journals. He's respected enough to have articles that are printed in books that are being published. So this was one of his first things, and it's clearly people see this is amazing stuff. Not disassociation.
This is consistent with naturalism when they posit the multiverse. Mm-hmm. And a multiverse is this very thing where there are other universes not connected to ours but still a reality, because they're trying to source our universe without God, and in so doing they promote a multiverse. There's a myriad of universes out there. We just happen to be one of them. And what this guy is doing, it seems like he's trying to make a relational connection.
Because he's lonely.
Because
he said so in here.
Yeah,
I'm not judging. I'm just evaluating.
I appreciate the honesty of that, and maybe he put that in there as a funny thing. I think that's actually hilarious for him to put in there.
I don't know.
That is fantastic. That is good humor.
If it is.
Well, even if it's true, it's still good humor. No, really, I like that. I appreciate that. But he's taking it to an ethical and relational level, not just a material level.
That's
so
true.
it's just the next step to it.
So in this possible world, if we apply a Christian worldview, is love relationship with a talking donkey, is that still bestiality from a Christian standpoint, or would that be?
Well, actually, in his world, it's real.
You got to know.
In his world, it's actually real.
Do you have to have a physical connection? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
A physical connection for it to be adultery and bestiality, because Christ upped the ante on ethics. If you even look at one, if you even consider an animal, it's bestiality.
But he didn't talk about considering one from another possible world, so I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
That's madness.
So now you may be wondering, how would you maintain a relationship with this woman from another possible
This
world?
is long distance relationship on steroids.
I know you've been probably wondering that.
It was Keela, not David in the town of Keela.
Thank you.
So he says this: there is a way to get love letters from your possible girlfriend. There is a way.
Now we're just going into strange
Of course,
territory.
you can't see the paper that she's writing on, since worlds are causally isolated. You got to be practical here. They're causally isolated. Don't be silly. You can't actually get one. You guys don't understand physics.
I'm going to say this guy
Still,
Go
ahead. Still, you know that what she's writing. Still, you can know what she's writing to you. The way to do this is to include an extra explanation when you choose your possible girlfriend. So when you invent your possible girlfriend, just add another thing. Stipulate that you want a girl who will write to you.
I think
No,
so.
this is not.
No. It's published.
Stipulate that you want a girl who will write to you exactly those words which you write in a particular notebook. Then, when you want to hear from her, use the notebook to write the words that you want her to hear from you.
I think what this guy's doing, and I hope this is true, this or something like it. He's like, okay, they will accept just about anything that's quackery out there, and I'm taking it to the next logical step on the multiverse thing. And so they'll actually publish it because there's no basis not to. And I think there's no basis not to, and here's a possible thing. Well, here you go. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to
That's insane what you're describing. Seriously, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm really like...
Well, you might think it's insane, but apparently, while relationships with possible girls involves a broadening of my romantic boundaries, some people suggest that maybe he's being too narrow-minded. See, where you think he's delusional. Some people accuse him of being too narrow-minded.
This guy has a great sense of humor.
He says,
"No, this is awesome."
While relationships with merely possible people are unusual, certainly
you
unusual.
think?
At least outside of
after
certain
5 years
institutions.
old.
I can see where he might be using this to kind of undermine the whole use of possible worlds.
They're more
It's got to
continuous. They are more continuous with common practice than you might seem to think. Prevailing attitudes
That's
towards
even,
actual and possible differ mainly because of the prevailing opinion that actual people are the only real people. See, so if you like sit at home and dream about, someday I'm going to meet a girl and she's going to be awesome. See, you still are limiting your mind to
a real
person, but you're not extending to include actual people who may not be real, but they're actual people in just another multiverse, another universe. So you're just not really recognizing
this
that.
has got to be a shot at possible worlds and the reality of counterfactuals.
I think
that's the only universe in which that's the only possible universe in which that could possibly work.
And this is great stuff.
Yeah.
This is great stuff.
Yeah, because some of you might be wondering, and some of you might be wondering this too, but is a trans-world relationship without the possibility of causal interaction, can that count as love? I mean, think about it. If a guy's
cheating?
watching like the internet
Right.
and he thinks he has relationships on the internet,
Right.
there's no causal interaction necessarily.
Right.
I mean, well, of course you could type and they could type back, and you could assume that's causal, but what's the difference?
What if he falls in love with an actress on a movie?
An actress
Right.
in a movie, who's
Right.
maybe like an old 1940s movie, and then you
Right.
could fall in. It's like, hey,
Right.
well, while most loving relationships involve causal interaction, it's hard to see why that is a necessary condition of love. It's just hard to see it. It's impossible, really. There is one more issue to consider, because if you haven't thought, there's actually more here.
Okay.
With luck, at some point, I'll find an actual girlfriend. I love this guy.
That's awesome.
With luck, I'll find an actual girlfriend. Since I don't want to be unfaithful, I'll have to break up with my possible girlfriend if I want to enter into an actual relationship.
He's not only willing to break up with people here. He'll break up with all of them in every multiverse. Wow.
Stand up high moral
Have you
ethical
done that?
standard.
He's got
bet you haven't done
He's
that.
got to write all those letters.
Well, one might criticize me for this. You might criticize me. Well, that's terrible that you break up with a possible world girl for an actual girl.
And possibly break her heart?
That's exactly what. You might criticize him for being cold-hearted, stone-cold evil. Well, my possible girlfriend is spending eons of her life singing about me in my world. Isn't it heartless to break up with someone who has so much invested in a relationship? No, he says. No.
Easy.
Because simply he just writes into his idea, he imagines that when he writes this girl that she'll be okay with that when it happens, therefore she will be okay. Now,
well, will she just be okay, or will she actually be happy for him?
she will be happy for him.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
because it makes him happy.
Right.
Because she will find another possible boy and another possible
And she'll be
relationship.
genuinely happy for him because he found
True love.
personified love.
Now, you thought that this might have been a joke at the end, and I'm sitting here thinking this is satire as philosophy. But here's the final line of this that I want to share, which I believe is this. Now, in allowing for merely possible individuals who are as real as me, this brief presupposed modal realism and mark me as someone who has been seduced by Lewis's theory. He's saying, look, in the end, I come down to it, this idea of modal realism, after I've thought about it, I'm a believer. He said, I had doubts, but now that I've thought about it, especially because he can get love. His name is Neil Sinababu. I'm not saying it right, but that's...
Cannot be a real person.
You can Google it, find it out. It is. I seriously, I checked everything to make sure this wasn't a fictional thing. In a fictional journal.
That's painful.
Isn't that a great topic of one you didn't expect you'd be thinking of today?
What is a good function of possible worlds? What is why would a person really use possible worlds?
Possible girlfriends.
Yes, for possible girlfriends. You'd have many possible girlfriends.
Have you not been listening?
Yes. But what's an example that you would use?
Well, the benefit of possible worlds is being able to test a theory and find out how accurate it is or isn't, or what the results are. So, for instance, even Scripture uses possible worlds in the sense of, like in 1 Corinthians 15.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Where Paul says about the resurrection, it's a first-class condition, he presents it for the sake of argument, trues it for the sake of argument. doesn't mean it's true, but just presented as true for the sake of argument. He says, if there is no resurrection from the dead, then you are. If there's no resurrection, then Christ is not even raised. And if Christ is not raised, you're still dead in your sins.
But that's a hypothetical world, not
Right.
a possible world.
Well,
I mean, in the sense of technically, as these guys are arguing, because they're saying these worlds are real.
Yeah, that's what they're saying, right?
Right.
Wouldn't
that be the difference?
Well, not really, because they're taking modal arguments. You're positing a possible world. Usually, it's not considered as being actual. Now, people can say it's actual or not, but both are modal. But one takes another step in it. Okay. But it's still
so
modal.
that would be the distinction, though.
Right.
Is that one is.
But it's still even
Paul wouldn't be saying this is an actual world. He's saying,
people who use
imagine, if you will, this world existed.
But just because people use modal logic or modal arguments, it doesn't mean they're saying these are actually real. Just because he does that, that's not true of every modal thing. They're still hypothetical in the sense
Paul
that
is saying,
let's consider. So there's a few seems take it as. I'm going to say it's actually real as well.
I almost want to email the guy to find out.
I know.
It or not.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing to do.
Is this sarcasm?
So Paul is saying, if it was the case that Christ
didn't raise from the dead,
didn't raise from the dead, then these facts, if it were the case, would follow. It would follow that we were still dead in our sins.
Right.
That,
exactly.
We above all men would be most miserable,
right?
Because we would be living for a lie, etc., etc., etc. So that it does have some value. It does have some value in helping us understand the real world.
And as we've talked before about naturalism, well, let's say there is no God. What follows from the fact that there is no God?
And that's a good discussion, because if there is no God, then
what happens to morality?
Why be good?
Right?
Why shouldn't I just go?
Well, be good
crazy.
For goodness sake, because that's what Santa says.
That's what Santa says.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Santa said,
but there's no reason to be good. There's no reason.
In fact, there is no goodness.
There's no goodness. There's no
free will.
There's no ought.
Right.
There only is.
Exactly. And the is determined. So free will is gone. But so where is the complaint that they have against religion, doing different bad things, or people doing bad things, or rape, murder, human trafficking? These aren't actually immoral things, even though they object to them, because morality has actually been robbed from the universe.
Yeah, because if there's no, I mean, I like to think of it if you really believe that there's no God. I mean, if you really believe that there's no God, then and try to live that way. Just try to live that way.
Right, exactly.
Try to live as if there really is no morality. Try to live as if you really don't have a purpose for being here. Try to live
no free will.
As if there's no everything you do is just what you
determine.
It's what you do. But there's some other things that entail. Mm-hmm. If there really is no God, then literally what that means is that we all stand shoulder to shoulder. And whatever you say, you say, and whatever you say, shoulder armpit, yeah.
Yes, in your case.
Yes, you're so short. And whatever you say, you say. Now, there's no room for knowledge anymore, because everything is up for dispute at that point. Everything is up to be disputed. Mm-hmm. Whatever you say, you could go out and tell me that the sky is blue. I'm saying it's black, because that's what I say. And why should I accept your view?
Right.
On that view, there's no reason for me to accept it.
On that view, how do Black Lives matter?
It doesn't matter.
How do White Lives matter?
It doesn't matter on that view either. And neither do blue lives. No lives matter on that view. No. Now, people will say, okay, I can give myself meaning. I can just make meaning for myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what they would say.
And that's exactly what they do say. Okay, but just because it means something to you doesn't mean it means anything to me. Mm-hmm. It's just you. It's just what you have to say. So
I had a conversation with a guy when I was a student at Penn State many decades ago.
The best football college in the world.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. And we were discussing about this idea of morality and truth and right and whatever. He said, I said, so if you're taking your position right, he said, you can't say that Hitler was absolutely wrong. He's like, that's right. I'm just saying that it wouldn't be right for our age, and it wouldn't be right for me to do what he did, but I can't say that he was wrong. I'm like, so you're saying that there's no objective truth in that? It's like, yeah. It's like, so if I was really frustrated with this guy, and I was like, I was young, immature. So I said, so if I were to punch you in the head right now, because it would make me feel better, you would say that that's not wrong. He's like, well, it would be wrong for me, but it may not be wrong for you. I mean, he was He was committed to that system.
He was committed.
He understood and was fully committed to that.
Now, had you done
what you're
that,
saying.
he would have called the police on you.
Sure. But not because it was
Wrong.
wrong objectively, but only because it was inconvenient for him.
But why call the police?
Yeah, I talked to an atheist who had a daughter who was handicapped, and I went down that line. And I said, "Now, if a guy raped your daughter, this is a handicapped girl, her own daughter." I said, "You got to, admit, you tell her that this is morally wrong." And she stopped. She goes, I couldn't tell her it was actually wrong."
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I thought for sure I had her over the proverbial barrel, but she sucked it up.
Yeah.
And then,
well, even this guy, his own self-interest.
Yeah, I know.
No.
And this
Can't say it's wrong.
Right.
And this is because people, I think people are wedded to ideas intellectually, but they don't live out the truth of those ideas practically. I think it's
For the most
easy.
part.
I think it's easy to say that there's no such thing as wrong, right or wrong, until something bad happens to you. And then your whole demeanor changes. Because if it were the case that you didn't believe in a real right and wrong, then you really could never say what anybody did.
Well, you could never use the argument of evil and suffering.
Yeah.
The argument of suffering. But that if you genuinely believed what it is we're talking, the idea that there is no absolute right or wrong, you could never use the argument of suffering as against, from your view, the idea of God, because you have no way to define what that is.
Right.
So it's
and on naturalism with no free will, you couldn't complain on the ethical issue or even complain at all because these people don't have free will to change.
Yeah.
They're determined.
Oh, speaking of that, if people don't have free will to change or to determine, right? And then there's Corey.
wow. He's like brought up in this show. He's going to get more mentions in this show.
Corey.
He's not watching it.
Just saying.
Yeah, if you were here, you'd be an argument right now, Corey. See?
If people epistemically, in other words, they do not possess the ability to determine anything, right? They just don't have the ability. They don't have it. They can't acquire it. They can't get it from anywhere. How then could they be held responsible for anything that they do? Why are they not merely just like robots or automatons programmed to act in a certain way? How can you ever say that they're wrong?
I have an answer for that, actually.
Yes, I would like to hear it.
I have a legitimate answer for that, according to the newest philosophy. See, you're trying to answer these questions from existing philosophy. This brings up a wonderful topic. I'm sure you guys have talked, we're talking about ethics, we're talking about epistemology, metaphysics. See, yours is really a metaphysical question. Well, that question must be answered through something we like to call, in the new philosophy world, meta-ethics.
Meta-ethics.
There's an entire book out on this.
And you have it right there.
I have it right here.
Isn't that interesting how we got there?
Meta-ethics is the title. New essays on the foundation of ontology. So, what is meta-ethics, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. Meta-ethics asks questions about existence. For example, do numbers really exist? Does the world have a beginning? Those are metaphysical type of questions. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Metaphysics asks questions about metaphysics.
Okay.
Yeah. See,
does metaphysics exist?
Yeah. It says this. For example, do questions have determinative answers? If so, are their answers deep and important, or are they merely a matter of how we use words?
I can tell you what the problem for this is automatically. It's an infinite regress argument. It's an infinite regress problem.
There you go. Because then you have meta
ethics, and then
That's
meta ethics.
Sounds like linguistics here.
Yes,
is what he's doing.
That's exactly what I was doing. When I got to that line, I was like, this is what it's really about. Is you're saying, your question of does the universe have a beginning? Do I have meaning? Is there meaning to my life? Those are questions that meta-ethics ask. But meta-ethics ask, do those words you're asking even have any meaning at all? It's a totally postmodern linguistic thing that's saying language has no inherent meaning.
You know what you say to a person when
if
they say
language
that?
has no inherent meaning, your question has no inherent
Yeah,
meaning.
no, what you say, you should just look at him and say,
what do you mean?
What? What?
Exactly. Yeah.
Explain that to me.
How does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. Who are you talking to?
Does your question have meaning?
Does your question have meaning?
Does your question and my question have meaning?
Does your question and my question have meaning?
It's exactly what it is.
It's insanity. It's the infinite
It's the invention of a new category
yeah.
so that they can not have to answer.
To not have to answer the problem
they've
of
realized their inability to answer. It's really quite fascinating when you think. What it's really saying is we concede that our answers are crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Christians, from a Christian worldview, have addressed these metaphysical questions and questions of epistemology raised by Hume and Nietzsche and Kant and all these guys, whatever. They've answered them effectively, so effectively that now we're just going to say, wait, but maybe your questions that you've asked of us and those answers don't have inherent meaning at all. We're going to question those questions from the questioners because we can't even come up with an answer. I mean, that's honestly my take on it.
It's like, but this is different from this is no different from evolution. When the evolutionists started to say, okay, they posited panspermia. In other words, that some distant planet, some life from a distant planet came and instead of life originating on Earth, they're just going to move it to another distant planet.
It's an ad hoc solution to try to come up with a way to rescue the theory.
That's exactly right.
No way within it. You can't acknowledge the theory's wrong, so you've got to come up with a mechanism to save the theory. And this is what I say. This is one of these articles, by the way. I was in by that one I originally started out with. This is one of these reasons why that gal who wrote it said I've quit academic philosophy because it's so useless. And she's like, and this is a secular atheist gal. This is not a Christian recognizing this. She's like, look, this is just gobbledygook. It's just one person trying to prove that I can say something less meaningful than what you say that destroys what you mean because you could never understand it. It's just too complex of a thought.
Right, and it's not really. I mean, it really is just another try to get us from never really talking about the real issues. We were talking about it in class the other day, how a lot of these guys who are writing and talking about evolution or naturalism and etc., they don't really address the issues. They talk about language more than they talk about the issue. They talk about our ability to know more than they talk about the issue. They never really address the issue. And then on those rare occasions when they actually do address the topic that you're talking about, you have to really pay attention because they change what you mean. They reevaluate, re-articulate, reform, restructure your argument to make it easier to argue with, and you have to really pay attention.
Yeah. That's exactly it's what it is. It's exactly what I said. It's what postmodernism is. It's a linguistic movement that says language has no meaning. Inherently, it's only what you give to it. For the Christian world, that comes down to the Bible has the meaning you impute to it. Yes, it's revelation. It's God's word. You acknowledge that, but what that means is purely up to the individual who reads.
Right.
It's a human-centered.
It's a really
response to it.
It's bringing that up. I was actually going to, and I didn't get a chance to print it out. I was going to talk about Jordan Peterson's new discussion that he was having, and I really like Jordan Peterson. I really think that he has something to say, and there's a lot.
Who is he? Just to frame
Jordan Peterson is the latest social critic. He's a psychologist who from Canada, who is a really good psychologist, but who only dabbles in philosophy. And it's the fact that he only dabbles in philosophy that he doesn't respect the rules, the philosophical rules, and that gets him in trouble when he starts talking about philosophical issues. It's very interesting that you brought that up because he recognizes the gap between science and religion. He recognizes that, well, he would argue that we're both treating different topics, and that because we're treating different topics, when we talk about the same topic, there needs to be some ground rules. So he hopes to step in that breach and give us the ground rules, but so that we can talk about the same things in a way that respects both fields. So, for example, he calls the religious worlds and religious ideas mythology. I mean, he classifies and categorizes them as mythology. And he also recognizes that, the scientific world, although it helps us understand the world as it is, that it can't really say anything about anything of meaning, anything of real existential worth. It really can't say anything about it. So he hopes to bridge the gap. But the problem that I see is he respects science, but he doesn't really respect religious belief. He doesn't really respect religious truth. He might think that the religion has something to say about the world that helps us live better, but he would totally disagree with the basic tenets of Christianity. He would disagree with them. I mean, there's no getting around it, because he doesn't. He may believe in the future, but he doesn't yet believe that Christ really raised from the dead. He doesn't yet believe that. I certainly listened well, and I don't think that he believes in the Trinity either. I think that he believes in, I wouldn't say God, he would call it the Logos. So I think that he's more of a Platonist. But we have to listen to these folks and what they're trying to frame up for us. What they're trying to frame up for us is something different than Christianity. And we just have to be wary of him. And I just, threw that out there.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I mean,
very interesting. We could listen to him all day.
He goes counter to a lot of the moral, ethical, what's commonly accepted as those things
of the
day, the mores of the day, and gets savaged from the left in that, but then kind of ventures outside. And Christians like, yeah, you're right on this, and then he ventures outside and gets.
He's savage from the Christians.
Savage from the Christians on that. But it's only because he's stepping out, like you said, of this field of expertise, and he says things that are really sort of blunders of thought that can be corrected. So, but I do think he's a pretty brilliant guy.
Very
overall.
Interesting. I mean, I could listen to that guy talk all day. Just don't talk about Christianity.
Yeah, that's good. Well, do you have any topics for today? I mean, I don't want to, have our little possible girls thing, or.
No, I have one that's big, and I wanted you to.
Oh, do you have one that's big?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Go for it.
I didn't bring any in.
No, this is. I have this printed out on my desk, but this is. I know. I had it.
Wow.
I have to take students around.
So we're supposed to take his word for it.
You have to take my word for it. I have to take students around.
Prepared here?
I'm prepared. This is a good one.
This is really awesome.
This is a really good one. This actually springs out of a conversation off of Facebook. So it's a really good one. It's on Facebook. It's got to be good.
Yeah.
And the one guy makes a statement, and he says, government has no business seeking to regulate a private business like Facebook. Has no business trying to regulate Facebook's terms of use. Has nothing it should say about it, because it's a private business. And if people don't want to be involved with it, they shouldn't get involved with it, right?
Well, a question for you on that. Oh, I actually read something about that.
Yes.
This last week too, a little bit.
I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I was in agreement with him until I thought about it in this one instance. They're a business that is different than any other business that we've had. Mark Zuckerberg calls Facebook a community. And that community has rules that he gives it, and that community has commerce, does commerce on his site that he allows. That community has laws, right? Rules and laws that he governs, and he can excommunicate people from that community or allow people into that community. Now, if that community was only a small sliver or small group, somewhere, I mean, who would want to regulate that? That's none of our business. But that community affects elections in the real world, in this country. And as I see it, and as I thought about it, it appears to me that it's almost like a small government growing inside of a larger government. So I think.
So you think that the government should regulate it?
I'm not. I don't want to be definitive. I don't want to be definitive because I'm not really sure. I just started thinking about it, but.
So which government's in charge?
Exactly.
Conservative.
The one we voted on, the one we elected.
Because then you just transferred
the
power from Facebook, you like it or not, to the other. One of my questions would be, isn't it a public? No, it's privately owned, but isn't it is it publicly traded?
It's publicly traded.
Yeah. So does that change it from a privately owned to publicly owned, and does that now change
No, because it's
the
still,
rule?
Yeah, no, it's still a private thing. The only thing they have to do is if they ruled some sort of monopoly in an industry, and I mean they can find ways around it, but no, it shouldn't technically do because it's still, even though it's publicly traded, it's still a private non-government entity.
Okay.
So I think the challenge is, and where I kind of at least right now is that I think it's fine to criticize. Like I've heard snippets of the Senate when they talked to Zuckerberg yesterday, and Ted Cruz was saying, "Hey, well, didn't you eliminate all these conservative pages and stuff? Have you ever done that to the thing?" I think it's fine that he's pointing out that criticism, as pointing out that duplicity, essentially, because what he's pointing out is not that the government should regulate him for doing that, but he's pointing out the fact that what he pretends to be is not what he is. So I think that is fine for government to point out, like officials to point out that, look, you're pretending to be an open community where all points of view are welcome equally. And we allow it to our users, so to speak, to discern, what you want to post and what groups you want to fashion. And inside of Facebook, you can have groups and affiliations and like anything else outside
But
of
now
that.
you have prioritization of news feeds, and liberal things take precedent. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Right.
which I think anybody who is politically conservative would argue that he has the right to do. Fine, go ahead and do that, but you should be honest about
open
it.
and honest.
That's all I think most. I don't think those conservatives questioning or asking that it be regulated, because if they did, they'd be violating their own principles in that. I think what most are saying is you should be honest about, and I think those questions were designed to make him be honest about what their policies are, not that they were looking for a nose in the
Under the camel.
in the tent,
camel
camel's
under
nose in
the
the
nose
tent kind of
tent,
thing.
yeah.
Like, now we can regulate you.
Yeah, I don't think that they portray themselves to be different than what they are.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. I think that it's also a multinational country. I mean, a company.
Yeah, corporation. Yeah.
Corporation that whose influence doesn't really stay overseas. It really affects a lot of things that happen in the country. And I don't think that I'm not one of those people that say, well, the founding fathers didn't think of it, therefore we need to, regulate it. But it's a new thing that we need to be talking about. That we need to ask: should that be?
Yeah, absolutely not. Here's what I'd say too. Think about what happens is they go to like Facebook in China, and they're willing, and they will filter out, and they'll constrict whatever access people have in communist China based on whatever the government says they have to restrict. So they can't get certain news sources through Facebook, all that. So they have the capacity to filter and restrict and do all that other kind of stuff. But that puts us as the United States on the level with communist China, in terms of the government saying what you should or should not be allowed to filter out. So I don't, and then it's just a matter of what. Like I think what you were alluding to earlier, who gets back into power? So if there's conservatives in power, do they say, filter out the liberal stuff? Or if it's liberals in power, we filter out the conservative stuff.
Exactly.
We're trusting the government then to be fair instead of the citizen to determine.
Which
on
is
their
worse
own.
than a dishonest private institution.
Yeah.
Because the government now has power over the structure
solution
over
is
you,
worse.
whereas with a private institution, just stop using them.
Okay, so
The cure is worse than the disease.
Right,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's
So
what I would
I can see that. And what about the CEO of Twitter this weekend talking or liking an article that talks about using the social media's influence in companies to do away with conservatism, to do away with it, and to fight this battle until there are no more conservatives less. And this guy liked that article.
Yeah.
So
I think it comes down to this: is the government should not be regulating any of those businesses, but they could be the arbiter of unfair business practices that don't allow competition in the marketplace.
and that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the same reason I don't want the government in charge of healthcare. So to use that as my analogy, let's say this. If I have a private insurer and a private healthcare and private medicine, all that other kind of stuff, and my insurer refuses to cover my illness, or I get a bill that's wrong, ultimately I can take that private entity go to the government through the court system. I can sue them through the court system to have redress of my grievance. I could go to my congressman or my senator and say, hey, pass a law that says what they're doing should be illegal. So I can go to the government as a neutral third party for redress of my grievance.
Right.
But when the government takes over healthcare,
There's nowhere to go
who
to.
then could be the arbiter of my dispute? Well, the government's always going to side with itself. So I can't, if the government's in charge of my healthcare, I can't sue the government ultimately, at least not fairly, to get my thing corrected, to get justice for what I say is injustice. And I think the same thing is true in these. If Facebook is found guilty of saying, illegal practices that suppress other competitors to Facebook, or so leveraging the market that it's impossible to join into the market, then I could go to the government to resolve that. But if the government's regulating Facebook, they're going to say, well, look, it's fair the way it is. What's your complaint? Because they're always going to side with themselves. So that would be the argument for why it's wrong, because I lose my ability to have redress for my grievance. That would be.
I tried to open Mike's deal. I can't open it up. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that link.
Yeah, I don't know what
So
the link is.
yeah, Mike, you posted that.
If you tell us what the link's name is or what it says, or
Yeah.
give us some idea, maybe we could.
Yeah, we can't. For some reason, that link is not live, and we can't click on it to find that.
It's probably I'm thinking it's the William Lane Craig
But
fanboy deal.
But we're more than happy, though, to comment from you guys watching live. If you see things, articles or ideas, and want us to do, we'll try to work that in for sure. So
That's genuinely off the cuff.
that's genuinely off the cup, and we're willing to do
Definitely
that.
meets the criteria.
That's really funny too.
So that's why we're on our phones, and you see us do this stuff. We're trying to. We can see them on the TV. We have a little TV over here where all your comments come up and show up, and we're trying to read those. And of course, I can't even see that far, so I go to my phone. But we're trying to engage with that for sure. So
Yes. So you guys say no regulation,
I say no regulation of the
Well,
content.
not the content,
Well,
but
I say
as a monopoly.
I say yes, that the government should restrict any kind of monopolistic environmental conditions, whether they be business or whatever, that could restrict somebody from having an alternative to that.
Sure. Oh, right.
Yeah, if they portray that, if Facebook, for instance, as a case in point, if they came out and said, "Listen, we're liberal. All we're going to have is liberals on here. If you're conservative, we don't want your idea, but you're welcome to join, but it's not going to be allowed on here."
We're not going to let you promote your ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, Ward is turning. He's peeling. He's becoming black.
Hey, see, my salvation is in
there,
process.
there it is.
My
That's awesome.
chair, my poor leather chair is
Nice.
dying.
Yeah, I see that because you fixed that just a little while.
I think the warm California weather has
Right.
just
Killed it.
Maybe something to strap.
I'm trying to find something.
Maybe
If anybody
some-
knows a good solution, I'm trying to find a way to.
Maybe some. I can tell you what it is. Get some that gray tape. That'll work.
Yeah, I thought about that, but
They look
there's
duct-
got to be some sort of
there's actually dark duct tape.
adhesive material that I could
There's
use.
all kinds of dark duct tape,
Yeah.
including dark ones like this.
Yeah, I thought about
So,
duct tape, but I thought
okay.
a nice something else that looked a little less trailer park or a little more classy.
Oh man, you mean less?
Since it is my office, this is my house, and less. Yeah,
You're here almost as much as you're at your house.
These days, that's true. These days, that's very true. So
No,
yeah.
but if Facebook wanted to do that and they were upfront about it, cool. That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I think.
That's just fine. But don't portray yourself, and I think that's what Cruz, as you mentioned, what Cruz is pointing out. So you're saying this, but it's just not reality. You're not being fair, and you're suppressing people. These two
What was the one I thought?
African American ladies that were
Diamond and
Yeah.
Diamond Silk.
Diamond and Silk. Yeah,
Diamond.
they had their Facebook page. So
Mhm.
set who they are. I mean,
I've only saw a little bit of
Oh,
Diamond
okay.
Silk, but they're conservative African American couple gals, and they don't. I mean, they don't do, as they mentioned. We don't do drugs. We don't sell drugs. We don't do that. How are we a threat
Yeah.
to a community? Well,
yeah, Facebook deemed them a threat because they have, well, mostly because they are blacks who have conservative opinions,
Which is rare.
Which is, well, I don't think it's as rare.
It's the unicorn.
They're rare to some degree, but only they're more rare because groups like Facebook suppress their opinions,
So people don't realize.
So people who would have like-minded opinions feel like, oh, I'd be so alone. I don't want to.
I don't really want
be
to go
bold
that
enough
route.
to take that opinion. I don't think they're potentially as rare as they could be, because I think this is again, their ideas are being suppressed, and that's what Facebook did. Which again, be honest, they're not a threat to anybody. It's just like, hey, look, we don't like your conservative opinions.
Two sweet ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't
I
have
don't know if I
that.
call them sweet.
Oh.
They're pretty hard hitting. I've listened to a couple of their videos. They are very politically
They're very politically minded and
opinionated.
very sharp.
They are very.
What Mike was asking us.
Okay, yeah.
What he was asking us was about William Lane Craig's restructuring of Apollinarius's argument. I don't know that we could get into that here. I mean, that's a good discussion. William Lane Craig has authored something like a redacted Apollinarianism. As I look through the article that you talked about, Mike, I don't think that, and I can just safely say, just from having listened to it and read it, I don't think that they're fairly or accurately.
The article, is not fairly.
I don't think it's fairly or accurately representing what he said about Apollinarianism. Apollinarianism was considered a heresy by the church, and what William Lane Craig did was, and you can find this on his Defenders podcast. I would suggest you find.
I listened to him defend, I think, this issue on his podcast, and actually, it's probably a good time. So for Mike's sake, I mean, you can finish that too, but we could address it. We just have to pull up the articles to give specific references and address it fairly.
Sure.
So we can't probably off the cuff, because we're not all looking at the same, because I still can't pull it up.
Yeah.
The actual article it's making the arguments against his view on. So I don't want to speak without, but I am somewhat familiar with defending.
Yeah, and I would really say we should do it in a different topic. And here's why. One of the things about William Lane Craig's detractor, and I'm a William Lane Craig fan. I don't agree with him on everything. I just don't. I don't agree with anybody on just about everything, right? I don't think.
Except for us, apparently, according to Corey Marsh.
Yeah, well, Corey Marsh is just plain old wrong. Anyway. I'm sorry, Corey. You are.
No, he's not.
You are.
He's not sorry, though.
But one of the things that people do when they try to deal with William Lane Craig is to not accurately state what he says, and without having his words next to me, I really can't say anything.
Well, and that may not be fully generous either.
Yeah.
There are some people that do that, but there are some people who, I mean, William Lane Craig is like one of these guys. He's a deep thinker. I mean, all he does all day long is read stuff and write stuff. I mean, that's his entire job. I mean, unlike us, I mean, yes, we're professors, but we have...
We are?
Yeah, well, not you. Those of us that matter. No. But even as a student, it's the same thing. Yes, you read a lot and you write a lot, but that's not all we do. I mean, we've got other aspects to our jobs that don't involve research and writing. But literally, when he raises money for his stuff, it's so he can sit in his office and read and think and write and read and then go and debate somebody and then read and think and write. That's all the man is doing. So I say all that because some of his thoughts are very intricate. I don't think impossible to understand or too deep. They're not too esoteric.
No.
They just do take a lot of effort
Explanation
to understand. And so what happens is there are people that you certainly may not like him or intentionally distort it. There's also people who think they understand it who don't, because they haven't taken the time to think about it in that degree. And very few of us have that time to think about it to that degree, because that's not what we all do on a daily basis as he does. So I think there's that group of people too that just
I don't want to lump everybody in the same category.
Mischaracterize it. Yeah. So
I only want to lump some people in that category.
Yeah, but there are two valid categories there.
Yeah, he's that topic. It's a very interesting thing because what he's attempting to do is talk about the relationship of the Trinity and Christ as the Logos, and to kind of fix where Apollinarius went, where he believes Apollinarius went wrong.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. What I'll do is I'll try to find it for anybody that wants to listen to it and tag it at the end of this article.
Okay, yeah.
And then what else I'll do is if you're really interested in what William Lane Craig does every day, I have a nice little article tucked away somewhere where he gives you an idea about his day. And that would be very interesting if you're really interested in that thing.
Yeah, I've heard it on his podcast, his description of his day.
It's a very, I mean, it's, if I got to do that all day.
Yeah.
I might actually talk about
Leroy will post some things on the end of this thread.
Yes.
You can follow up. But we'll try to maybe work it into maybe next week or something and address at least some of the core issues of has he ventured into Apollinarianism or heresy, and we can maybe at least outline some of those distinctives of where that might be this, where the confusion might be coming in, or where, if quite frankly we read about, say, I think he could be still wrong without necessarily being heretical too. He could, he can still be wrong and not heretical.
Let me in that lane. This is a good question. I don't know how much time we have left, but it's a good question.
Yeah, we got a few minutes.
It's been my experience.
I don't know what time we started actually.
Me neither.
Because it was odd today. So.
It was an odd day. It's been my experience that a lot of these guys that were called heretics back then, some of them were real heretics, but many of them were just wrong. And being just wrong doesn't make you a heretic, right?
Well, typically being wrong makes you a heretic, but it depends on the degree of heresy, as opposed to even on a minor issue. Being a heretic, technically would be you're being wrong. I think that's. But what we want to do is we use the label heretic too broadly, as opposed to limit it to something like a salvific issue.
Sure.
So that's where we want to limit that, because, for instance, like some well-meaning Christians will take the view that Scripture, the Bible, is not inerrant. Okay, but they'll still believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, so they'll be wrong on an issue, but not salvifically heretical.
Right.
Some will have a different, theory of interpretation as far on some of it. The long Earth, short Earth of creation.
Yeah.
So, and some well-meaning Christians have raised up the issue of young Earth creationism to the level of if you don't hold to it, then you're a heretic. Well, okay, let's say that the person's wrong for not being on young Earth. It doesn't make them a heretic salvific-wise, or the converse, whatever. So we have to be very careful with that.
I think, for me, I have a slightly different take on the meaning of the word itself, and this is the way I refine it at least. I think the word heretic essentially means somebody who is divisive. It's divisiveness within the church. So it's not just that they have wrong thing, but that wrong thing is used to divide the true church. So there could be a theology that is a secondary issue that becomes heretical because not only are they wrong, but they're using that as a wedge issue. So, in other words, you could say, if you are a Christian, you must vote Republican. And if you don't vote Republican, you are denying your Christian heritage and faith.
Where's the heresy?
Exactly.
I thought we were talking about.
Yes. So that, I would argue, is heretical. Because, saying somebody votes Republican isn't necessarily, it's wrong, but when then you say anybody else who doesn't do it, now you've divided the church, you've made somebody's salvation, you've raised it to the, so it's kind of what you're saying, but it's that divisiveness aspect that I kind of use as my mental sort of metric for how I weigh that. So, for example, in the Pentecostal, this is where I came years ago, looking at Pentecostalism and the idea of baptism of the Holy Spirit when I wrote my books on that. That's a plug for my books.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But
good books.
But I looked at
get them.
There are many people who hold to baptism of the Holy Spirit as a second experience post conversion, who I would, as an individual, would not consider a heretic. But theologically, I think that's a heretical view, only because it divides Christians into those who have the fullness of God and those who are absent the fullness of God. So then there's, I would also make that distinction again between individuals and theologies, which could be heretical, but individuals who may not, in their practice, being divisive. They'll use the terminology, but they don't even know what they mean by it sometimes. And so you have to weigh people. At least that's my take. So
let me just ask this question since because it's a good.
Sorry, I think
it's a
William Lane Craig. I think is who they're talking about. His name. She's talking about William.
Yes, it's either William Lane Craig.
Yeah, go ahead and just put it in. Can you type it in so that they can see it?
So while you guys were fine,
there's two William Lane Craigs in philosophy and stuff. The one we're talking about is the one that is on the website reasonablefaith.org. So reasonablefaith.org is a location of William Lane Craig's
I'll type that in there
debates and articles, both popular level and scholarly articles, and he does a very good job
William Lane Craig is the first name that comes up. That's the one.
So yeah.
So so there are a lot of people who think that a certain, I guess you'd call them a denomination of Christians whose home base is in Rome,
Roman Catholic,
are not Christians.
Romulus?
They think that they're not Christians.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, I think, who think that.
That Roman Catholics would not qualify.
That Roman Catholics would not qualify as Christians. As a matter of fact, the moment you bring up their name, the hair on their neck stands up. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's accurate. I think that they may be wrong theologically.
That is also where we have to be careful, the distinction between heretical doctrine and wrong doctrine and individuals. Because I think there are many individuals who can be deceived with some areas of doctrine that are wrong because they trust people in leadership, but I think God will judge them not just on did you confess the right words, but their relationship with Him being a genuine one. And that I don't have an answer to.
Right.
Paul was a guy who, in the New Testament, who often he simply took people at their word. He said, you say you're a believer, well then if you are, then you should be acting this way. He didn't question their confession of faith, he questioned their response to that faith and how that they were living their life. So he didn't.
Although he was quick to correct false doctrine.
That's exactly the point. He would correct the false doctrines.
Yeah.
But he didn't question their salvation necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
He questioned, hey, if you say you're Jesus, then why are you teaching this false doctrine? If you say you follow Jesus, why are you living in this immoral lifestyle?
Right.
But he assumed that their confession was true. Now, that doesn't mean that they were saved.
Right.
He just was taking that as, okay, that's our starting point. So I'm willing to say, I'll take somebody at their confession of faith, but I will not necessarily accept that just because they say they're saved, that their theology is right, that their biblical understanding is true. And I think I'm willing to leave that up to God in that final assessment of the individual. But to the things that compare to Scripture, yeah, we can be good judges.
When you mature in your faith, you won't leave it up to God.
Yeah, exactly. Not like Ward Crocker, who was a good judge. Yeah. He's far more judgmental. I mean, in a mature way. In a mature way.
See, we can maturely judge people's salvation. Just ask. Speaking of which, we need to have a conversation.
Wow. He went there.
Wow.
All right.
I was really feeling good about you up until about 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Well,
on that downer, Ward Crocker, maybe we should close things up here.
I think
we're about at the end of our time.
Yes.
I think your medicine is clearly kicking in. Are you on medication?
I am not. I'm going to.
Well, his lack of medication is clearly kicking in.
That's right.
So my
temperature's going up, and so is my.
It's getting warm in here. It actually is. So I think I should have left to turn the fan on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to be back next Wednesday, 2:00, hopefully right on time, barring any other wars excuses. And so we should be back. Anything else you guys want to say while I go turn this off?
No.
No.
Bye.
All right,
God bless everyone.
Too bad, Corey.